Nora Okafor had grown up in a cramped one-room apartment on the outskirts of Lagos. Her father had died when she was young, leaving her mother to raise 3 children alone. Nora had watched her mother scrub floors, sell vegetables at the market, and beg relatives for loans that never came. She hated poverty with a passion so fierce it burned in her chest. By the time Nora turned 19, she had made herself a promise. She would never suffer the way her mother did. Beauty was the only inheritance life had given her, and she decided she would use it. When she entered university, Nora quickly became known as the girl who always had the latest phone, wore imported wigs, and never repeated an outfit. Few knew that she hadn't bought any of it herself. Her first boyfriend, Kunal, was a final-year student from a wealthy family. He spoiled her with expensive dinners, jewelry, and weekend trips. Nora pretended to be in love, but in truth, she measured her affection by the gifts he provided. When Kunal discovered her texting another man, he broke things off in tears. Nora shrugged and moved on. In her mind, men came and went, but money stayed. Her strategy evolved with time. After Kunal, there was Tund, a business executive nearly twice her age. He put her in a rented apartment, bought her a car, and gave her a monthly allowance. Nora played the role of the sweet, doting girlfriend whenever he visited, but as soon as he left, she spent nights in clubs with her friends. The money kept flowing, and Nora convinced herself she was winning. She looked at her mother's worn hands, cracked from years of hard labor, and whispered to herself, "This will never be me." But life is never as simple as Nora imagined. When Tund's wife discovered the affair, he cut Nora off completely. Rent was due, bills piled up, and she suddenly found herself without the safety net she thought she had secured. Desperate, Nora moved on to another man, a young politician named Femi. He was flashy, reckless, and generous, exactly her type. He showered her with cash, but he also pulled her into a darker world of lies, corruption, and dangerous associates. One night, when Femi was arrested in a money laundering scandal, Nora's name appeared in the tabloids as his mysterious girlfriend. Overnight, she became infamous. Landlords refused to rent to her, friends distanced themselves, and her university nearly expelled her for the scandal. Alone in her small apartment, Nora stared at the pile of designer shoes she could no longer wear in public without attracting gossip. She thought of her mother again. Not her cracked hands, but her quiet dignity, the way she had endured hardship without selling herself for survival. For the first time, Nora wondered if she had been chasing the wrong kind of wealth. Years later, Nora rebuilt her life differently. She worked, struggled, and eventually opened a small boutique. The profits were meager compared to the allowances she once received, but each naira she earned carried a weight of pride. Men still tried to lure her with promises of cars and trips, but she had already learned the cost of such bargains. She chose instead to build a life that no scandal, no betrayal, and no man could take away. Nora never became rich, but she finally understood something her younger self never did. Money could buy many things, but peace of mind was not one of them. The boutique Nora opened started small, just a single room with racks of locally made dresses and imported shoes she bought from wholesalers. At first, she barely made enough to cover rent. Some days, she closed the shop with only a few thousand naira in sales. But there was a quiet satisfaction in the struggle. It was hers. Still, whispers of her past never fully left. Customers would sometimes recognize her. "Isn't that the girl who dated Femi the politician? I heard she lived in Lekki before. How did she end up here?" Nora pretended not to hear, but the words stung. She poured her energy into her business, convincing herself that hard work would eventually bury the shame. One evening, while closing her shop, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside. A man stepped out in an expensive suit, flashing the same kind of smile Nora used to fall for. His name was Chaik, a wealthy importer who had heard about her boutique. Chaik didn't come to buy clothes. He came to buy her time. Over coffee, he praised her beauty, asked about her business, and offered to support her. He promised investment, a bigger shop, and connections to foreign suppliers, if she agreed to be his. For days, Nora wrestled with the temptation. The old part of her longed for the comfort of easy money, for the security she once had. The new part of her, however, feared falling into the same trap again. When Nora finally refused Chaik's offer, he laughed. "You're still pretending to be a saint. Everyone knows what you are, Nora. A boutique doesn't erase history." Those words cut deep, reopening scars she thought had healed. That night, Nora cried herself to sleep. But the next morning, she rose earlier than usual and went to the market to buy new stock. She decided that the only way to silence her past was not through arguments or denial, but by proving day after day that she could stand on her own. Slowly, her boutique began attracting loyal customers, especially women who admired her courage. Some even confided in her about their own mistakes, their own temptations. Nora became more than a shopkeeper. She became a quiet mentor, warning younger women about the dangers of exchanging love for money. Yet, deep down, she knew her past was not finished with her. The scandals, the old lovers, the enemies she had made, they were like shadows waiting just beyond the light she had built for herself. And one day, those shadows would return. It had been nearly 2 years since Nora turned Chaik away. Her boutique had expanded into 2 branches, one in Surulere and another on the island. She was no longer scraping by. She had a small staff, regular customers, and a name that was slowly shedding its old stain. But the past is a stubborn guest. It never leaves quietly. One rainy afternoon, as Nora arranged new Ankara fabrics by the window, the door creaked open. She looked up and froze. It was Kunal, her first love, the one who had cried when he caught her cheating all those years ago. He looked older, leaner, and more serious, dressed in a simple shirt instead of the flashy clothes she remembered. "Nora," he said softly, "I heard about your boutique. I wanted to see it for myself." Her heart raced. Memories rushed back, not of the gifts he'd given, but of his genuine laughter, the way he had once held her hand as if she was priceless, not purchased. They sat down after hours, the rain tapping against the windows. Kunal spoke first. "You hurt me, Nora. But I don't hate you. Back then I was foolish too. Money was all I thought I had to offer. Maybe I should have seen you needed more." Nora swallowed hard. She had lied to countless men, but with Kunal, the guilt still lingered. "I was selfish. I thought love was measured in gifts. I didn't know how to value anything real." There was silence. Then, unexpectedly, Kunal smiled. "Well, it seems you've learned. This place, it's yours. That's worth more than any car or trip." For weeks afterward, Kunal began visiting now and then, never overstepping, never demanding. Customers liked him, her staff respected him, and against her better judgment, Nora began to feel something she hadn't in years. Safety. But safety was fragile. One evening, a newspaper headline hit the city. Femi Adewale to face trial. Girlfriend testimony expected. Nora's stomach dropped. Her name wasn't printed, but whispers resurfaced instantly. Old customers began to mutter. Some avoided her shop, afraid of association. And then, late one night, Nora's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Nora, we need to talk. If you don't help me, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth about us." It was Femi. The shadows had finally returned. Nora stood at the doorway of her boutique, staring out at the city lights. Months had passed since Femi's threats, since the whispers tried to pull her back into the pit she had once climbed out of. In the end, she had made a choice she once would have thought impossible. She told Kunal everything. The lies, the gifts, the scandal, the late-night phone call. She laid her past bare, trembling as though each word was a stone she had carried for years. Kunal didn't walk away. He didn't pretend her mistakes hadn't hurt, but he saw the woman she had become, not just the girl she once was. And for the first time in her life, Nora realized that real love was not bought. It was earned through honesty, through patience, through endurance. The boutique grew, her name steadied, and the rumors faded. Not because the city forgot, but because Nora no longer bowed under their weight. She lived in truth now, and truth was harder to shake than scandal.